All right, I'm begun the recording. Welcome to the latest installment. I'm just going to start that, say latest installment from now on because I can't tell how many of these we've done. But this is the latest installment of the Baseline Protocol Technical Steering Committee. This is one of two primary committees of the Baseline Protocol. One is the Technical Steering Committee, which reports to the PGB, the Project Governing Board, and the other is the much larger SSC, which is the standards or the specifications steering committee. These two committees act a little bit like a very loosely arranged open sourcey end caps for a 2-week sprint cycle. Obviously in open source, you can't really do that. But we can point at shiny objects and then review them. And so we will review some stuff on the TSC, and then on the SSC, we will loosely decide which things we're going to point at next. And today we have a big agenda. Definitely a golf clap is in order for the teams Unibright, Envision, and Provide services, which really served people well. But everybody did a great job. Masaj, who did the video, Stefan, Kyle, Daniel, and I'm going to miss people because brain RAM is not my strongest D&D attribute. Ever wonder what your stats would be if you were a D&D character? Right. We have one new person here. They're not on the TSC, but I invited them, took the liberty of inviting them, and that's Brantley Milligan. Brantley leads the ENS effort for the Ethereum Foundation. Brantley, would you like to say a few words? We've got a big agenda today, but
Ethereum name service, a leading blockchain based naming project, and yeah, that's all I gotta say.
We've been talking a lot, Brantley, about corporate identity. I want to be careful not to say identity. That seems to be a charged topic, and somehow Baseline Protocol has gotten wrapped up in conversations about that. Whereas, I mean, as far as I know, there's nothing about Baseline Protocol that runs on any particular identity scheme, but we definitely need to know when we're interacting with another company that is the actual company we are interacting with. So personal identity is a whole different bag of tricks, but we definitely need that global corporate phone book. And so maybe you can listen in on that and maybe get involved with the SSC and help to drive that forward. I'm going to quickly, everybody's hopefully going to have to forgive me today. There's a lot that's going on this morning. So and we were up pretty late last night doing a release. And in fact, that is our next agenda item, review of the completion of the first major roadmap delivery, SAP Dynamics demo, and a discussion of what's next. Stefan, Kyle, Karthik, Brian, there's a lot of folks on this call that were involved. Would you like to take the floor, please? Give us about 5-minute review of the what we just announced.
Yeah, sure. I don't know if Stefan, if you'd like to say a few words about the integration part. I can take the integration with the repo part and sort of what next steps look like. Yeah, so done a lot of work. The last several weeks been very cool. There's an examples directory that's been created on master in the baseline repo. Check. Sorry. So if you guys would like to check that out. Basically, what we've got there is the Unibright proxy, which is a way to interact with Radish, the Radish 34 demo or use case from your local environment. Yeah, so I would say check that out. And so really, I think the big discussion point here is init core, which is a branch that we've been working on. that is sort of going to absorb all of the work streams related to this initiative. And you know, I think there's some broader discussion here to be had. Karthik, Brian, around that, and Sam as well, around that effort. Yeah, so basically, we're going to be doing a live demo of this effort next week on the office hours call. So I think everyone should join that. Yeah, Stefan, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, of course, thanks. Perhaps to give some more context on the follow-up work that may result out of the demo we released. Apart from that discussion on the repo and different branches and init core and all the amazing work that has been put in there, I want to emphasize that it has been also one focus of that demo to establish something for ERP systems to be integrated via baseline in a way that for the user of the ERP system, not so much changes. This is also something that we can continue building on altogether, made on the repo directly or in making team efforts, like it happened greatly within that demo between Provide, Unibright, and Envision, to ensure that as many, say, ERP systems as possible can use the benefits of the baseline protocol. So these are basically two roads that we can continue walking on. The one is directly connected to bringing the baseline protocol on the next level, and the other way is to making it as boring as possible, as John puts it, to have systems of record integrated. And the demo is just a very good showcase on these two worlds brought together.
Yeah, I'd love it if as many of you guys as possible could join us next week on the office hours. It'd be very cool to have you guys here. Have you guys there, rather.
Right on. So could you guys give us a quick overview of, I mean, this is the TSC, right? So this is the steering committee that really works on engineering direction, and also review of the engineering work. So could you go over lessons learned? I don't mean this, you know, about whether we got the Twitters right or anything like that, but rather about, let me suggest or prime the pump here by suggesting maybe you identified some things that need to go on the roadmap, right? That say, you know, oh, well, this was hard for us. We should make that unhard. This is totally broken. We should make that unbroken. I know you did a ton of work on init. What is the branch init hyphen?
Yeah, init core. Yeah, so that's what I was going to say. This sort of leads into that discussion around how this effort really really set the stage, or really started down the path towards the more generalized protocol, and the development of the actual protocol, and pulling apart the Radish the Radish use case into just sort of an example, what I would call an application. And so I think that this, as I said, like, as this branch absorbs some of the work streams, right? So what I mean by that is, Karthik's been doing some work around creating a bit more generalized form circuit that the Radish use case uses, and that's actually what we took advantage of for the demo. And so basically this init core branch is going to absorb Karthik's work stream from that. It's going to absorb some optimizations that have happened with regards to messaging. We've got a NATS interface implemented on one of my branches that's going to be absorbed into init core. That effort also, for example, merges the API and the messenger package that is currently in Radish. It merges those two packages into what I'm calling just like the baseline application, like an application, like an app package. And so, yeah, so sort of the top level packages for 5 of the core. I think 6 if you count. I think George has one as well that's based very similarly to this. There's
Is
like
this,
5
Kyle,
cores.
is this where, so you mentioned, I'm trying to make sure we get this on the record. And by the way, I should PSA real quick. I just posted a note or a big article. I hope it's a big article about making things safe for supporting mainnet. There are people on this call who work for companies. Most of us on this call, I think, are very comfortable being on the record about, working on this initiative. But just, Masiej and I spent about, several hours the other day editing out some folks on the SSC call because we didn't properly let them know that this was going on YouTube. So going forward, this will be on YouTube. If that's a problem for anybody, please drop, and we can talk about it later. And I want to make sure that this gets on the record. So anybody that's viewing knows where to go for what you're talking about. Sorry for that, PSA.
No, it's okay. I was just basically, saying that no problem. But there are 5 core packages now in the baseline core part of the repo. Sam did some awesome work to actually get the Radish 34, the Whisper implementation using the messaging package, and my branch that was been used for this demo does the same thing for Nats, and so that's part of the work stream that the init core branch will absorb with regards to the kind of merged together API or app package in Radish 34, and I see us being able to sort of accelerate the protocol design now as sort of from the community perspective. And I think Karthik, if he's on this call, I think it'd be good for him to chime in here as well.
Karthik, you want to take us through here and maybe just tell us, you can guide me on where to go. We don't have a lot of time, but just so that people know where to go to look at the work.
Which work? Are we talking about the work that's in the core, in the actual baseline core?
Well,
or are we talking about
the circuits? Let's start with the circuit. Like you said, there's an circuit branch in the core right now.
Well, it's actually on a different branch. It's on. So basically, there's a couple of branches.
These are all getting merged in the next few weeks, right?
Yeah. It should be on. I believe it should be. Let's see. Scroll up a little bit. It's either.
Okay, Karthik, are you there?
Simplify Radish, simplify MSA, I believe.
You can simplify MSA process to get this. Okay.
And in there, if somebody was interested in this particular kind of work, where would they go? Privacy.
I would. Yeah.
No, so part of the effort here will be to take Karthik's work. We're basically working towards implementing this in a general way, we're working toward implementing Karthik's general work, generalized circuit work in the
baseline package, in the Radish demo package. Got it.
Exactly.
Got it. Understood. So moving up, it's actually the current work is in the Radish 34, and then as we abstract and generalize, which is the job of this organization, more or less, among other things, that will move into the /baseline thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
The /baseline folder inside the repo on master, right? So just again, I'm just trying to do a service to the people that might be dialing in. Where would they go to, if they're skilled in the art and know how to look at code? Where would they go for to start them off, Karthik?
So a couple of things. The process of making things into init core is a concerted effort amongst not one or two, but amongst 5 to 6 different thought processes, expertise, and lines of thought. So separate branches that Kyle is referring to is the result of these separate lines of work or separate thought processes. So while on one side we were trying to focus on ZKP and or making a more generalized circuit, there are other efforts, as Kyle mentioned, in terms of generalizing how we want to standardize the usage of messaging service and standardize the usage of blockchain as a common reference point and so on. And the overarching driving principle is that we want to abstract out as many components in the form of a specification, such that developers or new enterprises or any users for that matter of the baseline protocol would be able to leverage a specification much like a package that could be imported. So init core represents represents more like an integration branch for all of us to work on. So Kyle's work on, for example, NATs related substitution for Whisper for secure message communication is handled in one branch, and which is eventually getting into in init core. So we are treating init core more as a integration branch, and that's why it's not fully well formed. But if you would like to see the different aspects of it, we have the simplify MSA branch, which Kyle is on right now. And within that, if you go to tests,
yep, John's on there, not Kyle, but yeah.
Sorry,
that's okay.
You go to simple test. So this simple test essentially shows just a single baseline step, whereas the integration test in one level up shows is a more familiar test that everyone more or less should be familiar with, which is this is the Radish use case about buyers sending RFPs and MSAs and POs and so on and until POs. Whereas what the simple test does is it takes just one step, which is I just want to create an agreement and I want to communicate that agreement to the intended supplier or the intended recipient. And once the document has been co-signed, I would like to verify such a proof on chain and also send the details to the recipient so that they can validate it. So the simple test you see over there is essentially a representation of that baseline step as to what we could call as a general sequence of events, if you will, or a general, as Kyle puts it, a general set of opcodes, like not opcodes, but a general set of like instruction set, so to speak, that you could follow to enable a workflow or to baseline a workflow. So that in effect or in the drive to create such a baselined circuit or such a general circuit, the simplify MSA branch shows one such circuit called create agreement, and that such a circuit, the test case that you were showing earlier, the simple test shows how the end-to-end test runs. And if you specifically want to take a look at the circuit that we're working off of, again, this create agreement circuit that is on simplify MSA branch is a stripped down version of what we have in Radish, but it's not the final version. The final version again is
really just a consistency engine circuit, right? It's basically saying, okay, everybody's digital signatures, panned out. We have consistency, right? It doesn't check for correctness of any particular code. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah, we've been talking through about how maybe this is the first step of a composable series of circuits. Sorry.
Yes. No, we were talking about that a long time, in the last 8 months. I think it's really exciting. We got that. And one question about it, did we go so far as to also, it's the Are We Consistent circuit. Does it, actually I lost my train of thought on that. I'm pretty tired. We have consistency, we create the agreement, we validate the agreement. Does it, it probably doesn't have any reference back to any other, like if you wanted that agreement or that record to have logic in it, off-chain logic, I'm guessing that it doesn't validate that, right?
It doesn't yet, but that's sort of like the next step once we have, a few, Karthik, I'll let you chime in. There's been a few late nights pairing, around how this, how we're passing in arbitrary call data to the circuit, and we've come up with a pretty interesting solution to that.
I have to say that if you don't mind me interrupting there,
that
validating off-chain execution is sort of a natural like if you want to say, look, you know, we want, the way I see it, the ZK circuit is like a Java, it's like a super powered Java interface class, right? It's basically enforcing correctness of a set of rules, right? And it's taking that enforcement power out of the hands of the counterparties and putting it into the hands of the blockchain, the mainnet in this case, right? Which is powerful. I think, you know, if I'm selling that idea, the way I'm selling it is, hey, you're a regulator, you're an auditing company, you're somebody who who needs to take less time making sure people are living by the rules. Tell them to go work through this circuit library, and you won't have to spend as much time giving them a colonoscopy.
Yeah, and if I may add to that, I think this is also one learning, that part of this, let's say, what part of an agreement is built in what way, should also have an architectural proposal on how to establish domain models. This is also something we try to do in the demo, to abstract a little bit from an abstract agreement to a domain-related object, and how to integrate these more domain-related data transfer objects to any agreement and underlying circuits should also be a scope for the future. In terms of off-chain execution, if you want to talk to parties that perhaps do not want to dive deeply into ZK circuits, but rather stay in their domain.
Yeah, I mean, you could send everybody a Python package, right, and validate that everybody got executed it deterministically.
Exactly, yeah.
Didn't have any time lookups or something that they're going to throw the determinism off, right?
Yeah. And the architecture actually supports that. You know, like that's something that we'll be able to point at. Or
you could throw it into a TE. Yeah, I mean, seems like a great opportunity for. And I know a bunch of people from Avalon or around Avalon and other TE secure enclave efforts, and we have AMD is involved in one of the founding members of this organization. So
that would be a very, very logical next conversation, especially like there's like this vault microservice that's responsible for key management. And I think that makes total sense.
Okay, I'm gonna call time on this particular item. No, actually, I'll give you one more shot at Stefan. Maybe you want to say anything about learnings about integration.
Yeah, sure. So I introduced this earlier. One of the goals was to make the integration points as easy as possible, and two things to make that happen I already mentioned. So one is the establishing a proper domain model, even if it's very simplified in that specific case. I think it's a proper way to go to abstract from the things that happen in the protocol and divide them from the things that have to happen on the integration side. And in the demo, this worked out very well. Yeah, domain modeling, perhaps also including the existing standards. There has been some discussion going around in groups around how to properly work with standards like EDI or X12, or perhaps quasi standards established by, for example, SAP or Microsoft Dynamics. So this is a layer that has to be properly integrated, or integrated into the tech stack from an architectural perspective. So
what's interesting to add to that, Stefan, like what's interesting is like where I think the integration point is for those is actually at the circuit layer, because of the way we are passing the arbitrary call data. There's a little bit more research. There's more research for us to do. Like we're passing the call data, properly, but there's a little bit more research to do around how we create the next layer of composability on the circuit side. To actually like how do we chain these things together, and so the call data can basically become pass through to the next thing, and it's sort of out of scope for the demo, but it's something that Karthik and I have been talking through.
Of course, and what I'm basically saying is making it as easy as possible for the external integration points to adapt to that part of the technology. Yeah.
The circuit registry essentially.
Okay. Yeah, so it's the bottom of the hour, so I'll call time on this topic. Any questions from people on this? You can see on the screen. I'm trying to show what actually the next thing we need to talk about, which is getting a lot of our work surfaced up to the dashboard. This was a good learning last week in that there was a bunch of stuff going on down in the init in the several branches, as was discussed earlier on this call. And as we were getting to release, it kind of blindsided a couple of folks on the release to realize that a lot of stuff that the demo relied upon wasn't going to be in master, which is fine. We worked it out, not a problem at all. Good learning though. And a good example of why it's important for us to surface our engineering work up to the top. I know that everybody's working on that, but here I'm going to just as a way to help and to illustrate the point, I'm going to create this new epic. It's an epic because it's not a, the only things that are issues in our parlance are, and you'll see that this is on the baseline roadmap repo, which you can connect to from the /baseline repo. And you'll see that this is, the only things that are issues are engineering tasks, action verb stuff. Anything that looks like a topic or a story is an epic. And you can nest epics inside other epics. So we have this general consistency circuit. I'll just call it that. I've assigned Karthik to it just for starters. Zach, I can't seem to assign you, so I don't know if we've got your GitHub ID in there correctly or not.
So I think I need to sort that out. Yeah, I'll be in touch with.
Yeah, just DM me your GitHub ID and I'll fix it.
Thanks.
You can do it right after the call. So I'm just going to create this epic. Now, if Karthik was doing this, he could probably go and look at all of the baseline issues that are relevant to this circuit. Karthik, I don't suppose you very, very quickly could tell me like one of them so I can illustrate the point. Like what's a keyword that I can search for?
You just created this epic, right?
I created the epic, and now I want to attach some issues that you might have done inside the baseline repo.
Oh, okay. 1 second.
Relevant to the general consistency circuit.
Yes, 1 second. I'm looking it up.
And by the way, we've kind of mysteriously and smoothly moved into the next topic. Again, this is probably not going to be my finest performance of convening. Pretty tired and a lot of other things going on. Folks, please keep me honest. If there's anything that I'm missing, please let me know.
It is issue number 18 on the baseline repo.
That's strange. What's
the
name of it?
Optimize usage of privacy management components.
There it is. All right, so now I'm just going to click that off, and a bunch of others, and I'm going to create that epic, and it's in there. Now, one of the things we're trying to work out is whether we use projects, and right now we're not, but the roadmap has this construct called projects. So I'm going to go in there and go into ZK circuit libraries. Actually, I'm going to go back. Didn't even need to do that. So if I'm in that new epic, which hopefully will be right down, yeah, general consistency circuit. Yeah, I can just, ZK circuit libraries, and now that's going to surface up to our roadmap. Yay. ZK circuit libraries right there. And we can say that's going to be a priority for this amount of time, and you can see that there are more than a couple issues in there. here endeth the lesson. What we need to do, and if we can't do this asynchronously with the maintainers and committers and other folks over the next 5 to 7 working days, we will convene like a meeting, like an hour or two, to go through and just do a vast sweep up. Basically, it's kind of a Legos connect the dots. We're just going to go through. We'll just go through the engineering tasks and connect them to epics. It's as simple as that. It's a pretty mechanical process. Could be fun. So, all good?
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm going to stop sharing. And we'll go to the next. Okay, I requested questions, and then I moved on quickly. So maybe this is a good time to do questions. This is where I do that thing where I make everybody uncomfortable. I'm just going to work on my magic bus while you guys decide who wants to ask a question first.
There's gonna be a question.
I mean, John, I'd like to just know, what's my next step to getting involved? I guess I'd ask you that afterwards directly.
Sure.
If no one else has a question, that's my question.
It's not relevant. Go to the main website, click into Slacks and all that stuff. Send me your email and your GitHub ID. If you want to take accountability for an SSC for any of those items or create a new roadmap item, drive initiative.
Sure. What's an SSC?
The steering committee that meets on Mondays at 11 or the same time on Mondays every other week. Next one is next Monday. You're welcome to do that. And then it's getting involved is simply taking action. It's as simple as that. Raise a flag, say to me, and get it's an extraordinarily active community, and it's growing fast. So if you said, hey, I want to work on something, pretty good chance people will flock to you. And if they don't, let me know and we'll trumpet it. Any other questions about the work today, the releases, or any other learnings that we got from that experience? Questions about that?
Yeah, again, I think it'll be really cool to show it off live. We got some stretch goals I think that are going to be pulled in, to the demo before then, over the next week or so. And during that time also, we'll see init core get a lot more filled out with some of the some of the work that's been done behind the scenes. And over the next several weeks, we'll get init core to a place where we can open a PR and get it into master. And I think it'll sort of kickstart the generalization and protocol design. So there's some good, interesting, good work ahead of us.
Right on. Okay, so the next item on the list is this is the time that we go through the maintainers and contributors stuff. So Brian, Karthik, Zach, and folk who are on the maintainer team. Kyle, of course. Let's talk about key stuff on the engineering roadmap for the next 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Please take it away.
Yeah, what was that prompt? Sorry, I missed it.
What are you guys seeing in the maintainers? We've covered a little bit of that from the perspective of the recent demo. What else do we need to know about as a TSC with regard to maintainer activities? Do you guys have new maintainer members that you want to, again, we're not going to weigh in on that unless you guys have any trouble with that, but certainly major agenda is to get more maintainers. I've heard rumblings of more than a couple of people that you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Thomas and Nethermind would be great to bring in. However, I think we made a general rule about actually visible contributions. There's a lot of that going on, and so I'd like to nominate him. We can probably handle it internally. But yeah, I think it's gonna.
Oh yeah, you don't nominate him to us.
He'll be a great addition.
Yeah, you only call us if you can't agree, right? And go to the bylaws on the in the documentation if you have any questions about how the process. But it's good to know. Brian, any thoughts on that? Anybody you're looking at? And yes, Kyle, you're correct. Anybody on the maintainer team needs to have at least made one successful merge to master commit.
There's a lot of work in the background, but it'll be several weeks before it'll surface in the repo.
We've already covered a lot with what has been done with the demo that launched today. So that's, and then Kyle already talked about some of and Karthik as well, the init core work. So it's a big chunk. There's a lot moving there, but on the more normal development side of things, I guess regular, slow and steady improvements. We have a couple of PRs for improvements to logging, to create a more streamlined ZKP process for the purposes of running tests. And once that gets in, then we'll be kind of unblocked on CI. We can get the CI progress moving again. I think at least that's the plan. Is we'll have a lot less of a requirement in terms of machine compute. So we're gonna try to squeeze it into the free tier of Circle. There's been other few like maintenance and cleanup issues. Sam did a bunch of good work to kind of streamline and remove some redundancy in how we're compiling our smart contracts, and also how we're including them into the existing smart contracts. But I think that's it off the top of my mind. But yeah, they can always review what's been done, going to GitHub and look at the closed issues. That's the most up to date all the time.
Let's turn then to Eric and folks about security. I know you guys had a meeting on security.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we did have a meeting with Stefan about security. I think that was a really good meeting. He should have contacted you about how we move forward with potentially forming that into a specific group and him leading that, just to keep a focus on operational security as this is built and deployed in various environments. So that is ongoing. And we should chat a little bit about how we want to handle that from an organizational perspective.
Right. It sounds like it's a natural thing that if Stephen is on, Stephen Garcia, who's great, by the way, everybody should get to know. Very game. He's the CISO for Consensus. And when he heard about this, he just threw in hard for getting involved, and grateful to have him. And so with Stephen on the SSC side and you on it's a good bookend on the TSC.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that would work really well. We did sketch out, I don't want to review it all here because it would take too much time, but we sketched out a huge array of, operational security issues that we would want to talk about in a couple of different conversations. Kyle was also there on one of them, so providing some additional context for us. So, and Avia was there as well. So yeah, so I think that's going to be a really good addition to this entire process. So we'll discuss a little bit more how that would integrate.
Right on. And yeah, I really like the idea of these categories you were coming up with. You know, to box these things up, right? Like, you know, certainly if anybody's going to put this stuff into production or, you know, get it out of the, you know, if we want to get in general, and blockchain in general is sort of mired in the 5 years of the innovation department doing most of the work,
Right.
Around blockchain. It's like, hey, we're in production. Oh, but we're the innovation department. Nothing wrong with the innovation department, but kind of tells you something, right? We want to get out of that and into the, hey, the company folds if this thing breaks department.
Right.
And we're going to need to answer things like, did you punch a hole in the firewall in the wrong way? Are you putting at risk our SAP system? You know, things like that.
Yeah. There's a whole, again, probably too large for this, but yes, there's a huge array of operational security concerns that need to be addressed in one way or another. And so we're going to need a whole, SSC or branch or something that is, you know, whatever structurally we want to do, that's just that's their focus, and they can provide guidance to enterprises on that, and guidance to our community on how to then properly implement things.
Yeah, the senior security architect at IBM Research once told me, I asked him, how do we do security well? And he said, by doing it first.
Yeah, well, that's why we want to get into this early, is we want to make sure the fundamentals are able to be managed a year from now, right? When someone big really wants to do something big with baseline, right? And then looks and says, oh, can't do it. You haven't thought about any, enterprise operational security concerns, right? Well, we've failed now if that happens in a year, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm bringing this up to say that what we need, a very simple, clean thing that you guys can do next is we have this, stubbed out standards documentation on the website. And whether we do it this way, or I'm working on, either getting Gitbook so that we can just do .md editing, so that somebody doesn't need Gitbook to right now. You have to have GitHub to publish to the outside, because we just disconnected it from the repo for a variety of reasons. I got to reconnect that and make it work correctly, or dump Gitbook and go to something else. I will take that action for next week. And when we have that, you guys can add a document here in standards called security.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. And Avi and I are going to make sure that those follow-up meetings happen, but I think Stephen is going to end up essentially chairing it.
Yeah, that sounds terrific.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
So say we all. Anybody have any issues with that? So say we all.
Sorry, John, it was just a quick one on the documentation formats. I've been having a bit of a dig around recently on that. One that I've been working with the Filecoin users for their technical specs is called ViewPress, which is a bit fiddly, but it seems it's quite clean, and Gitbook anyway, it's like a paid for service now. And I was looking at it, I don't know if it's so Markdown friendly. It works with Markdown, but I think it's not so easy just to have like a code repo where people just update it and then it gets synced over. So it's just kind of a side note, but it might be helpful to keep in mind. So ViewPress is what I've been digging around in. ViewPress, VUE.
ViewPress. Oh yeah. Okay.
But if you look at the Filecoin technical specification docs, that's what they've written it in, and it's nice. Like
Have you been poking around with the Oasis? Oasis's standards team is excellent. Have you met these? You know these guys, right? Chet Ensign and that team. And we have an overarching standards body board that is endogenous to Oasis itself. And they reached out proactively and gave me a lesson in what they can do for us. And maybe we want to repeat that with you because you are, you know, I think the most experienced standards person here on the call that I know.
I think Charles and Dan are certainly way beyond where I am.
Oh, Dan's on. Hey, Dan. Sorry.
Yeah.
All right. Charles is off, so I wouldn't have dared say that if Charles had stayed on the call. So yeah. So action item is to look at Oasis tools.
Yeah.
And I can send you I have an email that from them I can send to you. I will take that note.
That'd be helpful.
Right on. We're closing out on 10 minutes left. And let me stop sharing screen and I will go back to the agenda. Review other demos completing in May. So upcoming demos that are to be completing. Now, technically, the TSC is not about, actually, I was going to say, you know, we're running out of time. So the SSC is where we really go into what's up in the future. By the way, if there's anybody on the TSC that is not getting invited to the SSC calls, certainly welcome to join those. Send me a note with your email address and I will, I probably have your email address, but I will add you to the list. Also, if anybody's having trouble, please, I'll probably be saying this for another 10 sessions. If you're having any trouble getting onto ZenHub and manipulating tickets, please let me know. It's hard to have a good organization unless we have that. So please let me know. So we won't go through what's coming up in May, except to say that Kyle's got 2 more pretty crazy projects coming forward, and LimeChain has one that does effectively what we did for SAP, but for Excel spreadsheets. I thought it was just crazy. And then another one for Kyle. You want to just quickly do the honors on
the DocuSign, on the
DocuLine.
Yeah, it's basically just builds on top of the same exact effort to allow for DocuSign agreements to be verifiable in this generic circuit. It'd be pretty interesting.
Yeah. So and you jacked into the DocuSign. You just took the initiative.
Oh yeah.
The existing DocuSign APIs.
Yeah. Works quite. Yeah. It basically says it gives you a list of templates that you have in your DocuLine account, DocuSign account, and you pick one to baseline, and then you pick a party, a counterparty from the org registry, and then based on that the template, the UI shows you a list of fields that are baselineable essentially, and you can fill in the values and then send it off for signature, and should be.
There is reason to hope that DocuSign could join the effort going forward. I don't want to speak for them, but there's reason to hope for that, and so I think that they would be quite excited about that.
Yeah, we'll go to them soon. It's piggybacked on the same effort.
Right. Now, also, they're not an Ethereum backer in any way that I know of, but there's a Clause. An old friend of mine runs a company called Clause, and I think they might be interested in this work as well. All right. So now we're going to talk about a light retrospective, organizational performance to date, what's gone well, what to focus on improving and pivoting in the future. Oh, and before we go into that, I will say there's one other key demo or project set that we need to keep an eye on. And Karthik is at the center of it, and that it will lead to the final effort of, or at least the big milestone will be being able to tokenize an invoice and from a baselined event. So baselined invoice, you're looking at your SAP or your Dynamics or your ops chain, and you click on that and you turn it into an invoice, and it goes into a digital asset management system in a stealthy way, so that you're not like letting everybody know on the mainnet that you've got invoices to sell, right? So pretty exciting, and there's several steps leading up to that. we will go into that in depth on the SSC call, and then there'll be lots of calls outside of that to really spin that project up. I think that's going to be the next really, really big headline project. Okay. Karthik, did I, keep me honest, did I get that right?
Yeah, it's a lot of it is ongoing effort, and one thing I would like to say is that like the community or the community of developers and researchers joining in this effort is truly appreciated and phenomenal. It's going well.
Right on. I will also quickly say, again, sorry I'm rambling a bit today. There is a company, I don't feel comfortable saying who yet, but there is a company that is going to go all in, it looks like, on providing gas services. So, and the reason I mention it here is so that we can be mindful of that and think about what about the protocol needs to be established so that gas services, that means a company that would pay your gas as, you know, so you're a corporation, you want to use the mainnet in your IT infrastructure, but you don't want to pay gas, you don't want to hold crypto. They would pay it and bill you, and you're basically getting an IT charge bill, pay as you go. That's the broad strokes of it. So, you know, meta transactions, making sure that those, you know, that provider doesn't actually now have the keys to your kingdom by, you know, by paying your gas, that you don't want to actually make them, you know, very powerful in your information system. So there are ways to do that. They're working on that. All right, light retrospective. Avia had to drop. Eric, would you like to run this? Just, you know, just take us through, you know, what you know, start with.
Well, I have no context really, so I'm probably not the best person to do that.
So, all right, let's just put it out there. You know, what went well? You know, what's going well? What do we want to memorialize as, you know, what are the 5 things that we think we want to make sure we don't stop doing?
I think the collaboration is going really well.
Team efforts.
Yeah.
The SAP Dynamics demo itself is a major accomplishment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the tech's coming along well too. You know, from that, agreed. But yeah, I think the team effort and the just how approachable and dynamic everyone, you know, can be with their scheduling is going quite well. And I think it's super important at this stage, you know, for us to actually succeed.
Are the meetings going well? What organizationally are we pleased? What parts of this are we pleased with? The format, should it be tightened up? Should we be adding things? So we'll just kind of pivot into what we can improve, you know, I guess.
I mean, from this perspective, I think you're doing a great job, John, if that's what you're asking. I also think
the fact that you said that I'm doing a great job means that we need to improve.
No, I was just joking. I think that the format, like the way that the community is being organized, I think is good. I think it would be good to have more structure around use case discovery.
Eric, I'm trying to Shanghai Avia to run these things. You know, I'm not, you know, I just don't want to presume.
Right, sure, I got you.
What else? Connor, what do you see? I mean, you've been involved in an awful lot of open source organizations. What do you see things that what are we doing best of breed, and what are we doing that we can lift our game
on? There's nothing that comes to mind at the moment. Yeah, I mean, the only thing that's, yeah, I think in terms of yeah, it's mainly just it takes time for, you know, I guess the cadence and you know, more people to come on board with the projects. Yeah, but certainly, you know, from my own perspective, want to start digging around properly with the stuff, but haven't yet. So I can't provide that more critical feedback yet. But yeah, it's, you know, I think the fact we've got a very good turnout each of these meetings is a very positive sign. You know, a lot of the time we struggle, and if the, you know, with getting that sort of engagement. So yeah, nothing direct, but I think it's the fact so many people here is a very good thing.
Very good. I'll offer just a couple points, and then I think we've hit the top of the hour. One is I don't think we're doing badly on the on standards, but if 2 or 3 meetings from now we haven't made a major effort at starting to write some stuff down on that, I'd say that we will be starting to slip there. So it's not a note yet, but it might be in the future. I think, you know, up until now we've been getting ready. We have a bunch of use cases now. And I think what we've really established is there's a big, giant horizontal use case, kind of akin to the, you know, everybody needs a web page in the 90s, right? You know, that was the use case. You know, it didn't matter what company you were in or what type of company you were in, you needed a web page. And then you needed one you could sell stuff on, right? It was a horizontal use case. E-commerce, preceded by spinning logos on web pages, I recall. And here it's B2B business process automation, right? That, you know, everybody does that. Every company is starting to automate their business processes between them and their partners. And that is the use case, right? I will stop at this point and say, everybody, what a great week. Good to see you. Please, if you can, join us for the sponsorship fundraising meeting later today at 1 o'clock US Eastern. If you want to, this is kind of like, you know, this organization is kind of like NPR for public radio in the US. You know, those who can afford to sponsor can. You don't have to. You can be on the TSC and not pay a dime. But if you can pay a dime, please do. Thank you very much.
Thanks, John. See you, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.